Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Tips and Tricks Tuesday and we have stencils. Let's see who can make a mess. I know I can. So I'm going to make a mess. We're going to use different techniques and different media to use stencils as a background before printing onto your paper for your pictures. So I've got all sorts of stencils here. I've got some wonderful bee and flower stencils, and we'll be taking a look at using some of those for doing filler parts of the pictures. We've also got some really tiny stencils here so that we can do things like accents. I use this one here on the back of a book that I colored. Different little accent ones. I've used these little leaves in the book I'm working in right now. I'll show you. So I have started this page and I've used leaves and flower stencils from the ones that I have here for the background on this picture. And as you can tell, I started off a little shaky, and as I started getting more confident with using them, I've been able to fill in the background with some leaves and flowers and that sort of thing. So that's kind of what we're going to do, but we're going to do it on a blank sheet of paper. We're going to practice on some practice sheets that are just sheets of paper that were printed on insufficiently, so scraps. But you can use these little ones for that sort of thing. There's all sorts of, you can use it for your corners and all that fun stuff. You can use it to put light bulbs above people's heads, and this one here is just squares, little banners, all different things. You can use all of these things in your coloring. Now you can use them directly on the page that you're working on. Like this one here has all sorts of little stars, little round bubbles, all different things that you can put on your pictures. Little chat boxes, things like that. And there are so many stencils out there. These are letterings, so you can put letters on it. I really should use those and start putting my initials on things. These are little clouds, little suns, so you can add some small clouds. Now these are really small, so these ones here I would suggest using on things like cards and smaller items like that. But the bigger ones, such as, let's put these ones away because we're not going to be using those today. Not that I know of anyway. We might dip into them and see what we have. But for these bigger ones that would take up half or a quarter of your pictures, like this one here, we're not going to use this one today either. So this one here is quite literally your entire picture. These are Easter stencils. They're little gnomes for Easter. I just thought they were really cute, and they work great for windows. You put them on your window and spray them with the window snow or window paint, and they work really good for that. I just thought they were really cute at Easter time, so I bought them. I have used them a couple of times, but a sweet springtime and happy Easter, I've used this one and this one. But we're not going to use those today either, so those are going to get put away too. But we are going to use these and these today. and possibly some of those little ones, but we're definitely going to use some of these. So these ones here are quite large. So if you look at a sheet of paper, most people print on an 8 by 11 sheet of paper. Now, as you can probably see, this has stuff on the back. So this is just a scrap piece of paper that we're going to work on. So as you can see, with these smaller ones, you can easily put, one or two designs on the paper. What I would suggest, and what I'll show you, because you know that your picture is going to be in the center of your page, that you work around the edges of the page. You can definitely overlap and things like that. But these are quite a bit smaller. And you can't see that very well because it's going on white. So we'll move that out of the way. So as you can see, this one here is quite a bit smaller with the design. So you can just use one or two of these little bubbles segments here and just use part of the stencil. You don't have to use the entire stencil. Like this one here, you can use part of the stencil on half of the picture and so forth. So these ones here are very decorative, would be great for wallpapers, area rugs, things like that that you want to use to decorate the blank backgrounds. Now if you have a really busy picture, of course you're not going to use these, but if you have a very stark picture with only one piece in the center and you don't know what to do with your backgrounds, especially if you have an indoor scene or something, these work really well to give you the background decoration. So as you can see, they're very pretty, lots of details. Some have very few details and are a lot easier to manipulate for using half or a quarter. Alright, so there are some of our background ones. And what we're going to work on today, of course, is just doing some backgrounds and maybe some fillers and that sort of thing. Now, when you're putting your stencils away, be careful with them. Make sure that they are lining up and not hooking into each other, because if they are hooking into each other, you can damage your stencil and it won't lay flat and lay properly for you. Like, for example, these ones here are all caught together because this one came damaged, so I should actually remove that one from the set. I like the outer rims of it, so. But make sure that your stencils are all separated and stacked properly so that you can get them back into the package. These ones here, as I showed you before, are quite large. So these ones here would take up the entire background of your picture. I don't know why I didn't put all those together. So if we put a sheet of paper, as you can see, it pretty much takes up the entire sheet of paper. So this one here, you would do it in segments. Say this, you're going to use this one and your picture is in the center, just use what's on the edge. Leave the center open for the picture. Or you can go very lightly through the center and just color over top of it. Sometimes the inks lay down quite nicely, and you can color right over top of it, especially if you use a light enough ink. If you're going to use a really dark ink or a dark crayon, of course just go around the edges. If you're going to use a really, really light ink that you can easily color over top of and not horribly change the color of your pencil, just print the whole thing. Just cover the whole area. So there's lots of different ones in this one as well. This one here has some good flowers, some good sun rays, that sort of thing. This is the rose pattern that I used for that other um, picture that I just showed you. And I didn't use the whole thing. I used each individual rose and then a couple of the stems and leaves. So you don't have to use the entire thing. You can just use little bits of it. Now another thing that you can do for backgrounds, and we will use some of these in just a few minutes, just to show you the different things that you can do. This one here is really cute because it actually gives you some filler ideas, sort of like the roses in that big one I showed you, where you have an entire rose that you can use and fill in the area. Little flowers that you can use to fill in the area. Um, Leaves and flowers that you can use to fill in an area. Same with this. Little birds, little leaves. Nice big flowers that you can overlap and make into a background. And then it has some full flowers that you can put in, especially if you're doing a small fairy scene that's only got a small fairy. You can do the big flowers in behind her and give that impression that she's really small. Little butterflies and other things flying around. Things like this where it has the bee going after the flower. Different little things that you can use. This one here is bees and butterflies and flowers. And you can definitely use that area. You don't need to have the writing in it. But you can use this area in behind or next to your scene or your individual fairy and fill that in the blank spaces so that you have some sort of background filler. And this one here as well, and use the entire thing as a background filler. This one as well. This one's really kind of cool because it's a honeybee form, like it's got the honeycomb form plus the flowers and the bees. You can also use these directly as just a stamp and just color it in. This one here is great as well. You don't need to put the sun in, but you can use these as the background. Just wonderful little things that you can use all the way through your coloring to fill in that background space. This one here luckily has a hole punched in it, so I can stick it on a ring and just make sure that it doesn't disappear all over the place. Alright, so we're going to take a scrap. This is a scrap sheet of paper from my coloring charts, my scrap swatch charts. Now I'm going to tape this down. I'm just going to use basic tape. You can of course use regular tape, or you can use I'm using a double-sided tape, so it'll hold it right down to the table. Of course, you can also tape it down around the edges with your regular tape. Now we're going to take, let's start with a background. So let's start with Let's start with a quite an intricate one. Okay. This one here is pretty good. And we're only going to do the edges. So I'm just putting it up here where I can do the arch, because we're going to have the picture in the center, but I want to be able to just trying to decide what I want to do here. Yeah, I'm going to move it over to the edge here. I'm just going to take a bit of tape, make sure I'm using the right side. And I'm just putting a little bit of this double-sided tape on the back side of the picture. You may need a heat gun to release it from your picture. Try not to press too hard on it, that sort of thing, but try to make sure it's flat. Otherwise your brush or whatever you're going to use will get up underneath it. Now we're going to use inks for this one, and we're going to use a nice light color. So we're going to take a nice light peachy color, I think, and we're going to grab this one. So this is Persimmon, which is a nice light peachy color, and you just fill up your dauber. Now you can do this with the ink thing itself. However, I have found that if I do that, I tend to end up with more ink than I want, and that's how I ended up with all those large yucky areas on my other roses. So I'm just filling this in with the dauber, trying not to create too much of a wrinkle in the area. And as you can see, it's filling in that area with a nice peachy orange color. Now you can get really fancy dancy with it and go all the way around with a lighter color like this. I'm just going to do this one whole thing on the paper so you can see what it looks like. Now you could of course do, half of this, separate your page. You just put a little pencil line down the center of the page and just do each corner and just move it so that the corners are lined up. And I think we're going to get a little fancy here. And I'm just going to go around the edges into the center area here with this light color, and then we're going to add a couple of other colors. Now I won't be able to color on this today because it needs to dry thoroughly before I start printing on it or coloring on it. This is one of those things that you would want to prep beforehand so that you get the best results. I did not do that on the other one. Oh no. Hopefully I just didn't ruin it. That tape lifted. Make sure that you hold down your corners even if you've got it taped so that you don't get what I just got. Okay, so we've got some persimmon down. I'm going to put the persimmon one back. And then we're going to take tangerine, I do believe it is. Mango Madness, which is a darker, brighter orange. Now I should have done this on the outside, not the inside, so that it'd be easier to color over. And I'm just going through and covering that area. Try to make sure you get it fairly even in the print. And then I'm going to take, that one was really pigmented. And then I'm going to take, I think this one, pumpkin spice, and finish it off. So just filling up the dauber and just going in. And filling that in. Okay. And then we'll gently lift this off. And there you have your background. And you can do that over the entire page. Let it dry. Like I can go in here and match that up. Maybe. Match that up down here and do the same thing, working from this point here down. So not going over top of anything I've already printed, but working from where I've printed all the way down. And you can do that for the entire background and let it dry and then print on top of it. Another thing that you can do is you can take one of the smaller ones, you can put this one right in the center, and then take one of the smaller ones and work on the outside. So we're going to let that dry. And as you can see, I've gradually brought it in from this orange to a yellowy orange into that pumpkin spice orange there. And I find that the daubers work really, really well for that. Now I'm not going to lift that because I'm going to keep this as my practice page. And we're going to do the same sort of thing with some of these smaller ones. Let's do some flowers down here. So trying to find a really good one to work with. Those ones are really big. Those are fronds. want one that we can work different colors in. Okay, so let's do this one. All right, go in there. There we go. Okay, so we're going to work on this one. Since we already have the yellows in this picture, we'll work on this one because it's got some good daisies in it and some butterflies and bees and whatnot. So once again, we're just going to take a little bit of tape. I'm just going to take the tape off of this one because reduce and reuse and that sort of thing. So just feel your picture. Make sure that there's no, feel your stencil. Make sure there's no little bits that are sticking up or loose. And we're going to put this one right down here like that. And then we're going to take a little bit more and do this side. Just sticking it down very gently so that I don't lift it up while going over it. Okay. Move the camera just slightly so you can see what I'm doing. So this is a little bee here. His wings, of course, are going to be see-through, but down there is not. So we're going to actually use, just trying to think the best way to do this. We're going to use gel crayons for this one. So I'm going to grab, put these ones back. And I've lost the lid for one. Oh, nope, that's not it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh no. I've lost the lid. I know it's here somewhere. Okay, well, I'm just going to put this up here because I can't put it away without the lid on it. Of course, because, that would just be messy. Alright, so we're going to use gel crayons. So I've got these gel crayons here. I'm going to put the dauber back in its place so I don't lose it. And I've got the palette here somewhere. What did I do with it? I'll put it under the pan pastels. Alright, so I've got my palette, I've got my crayons. There's the lid. I found the lid. So I can put that one away too. I don't like not putting them away because then I lose them. I move those up there. And we're going to put the crayons here, the palette here. We've got our picture. And we've got a couple of different things that we can use. We can, of course, use a brush. But we've also got some Q-tips, cotton swabs. So in order to do these really small areas, you can use a cotton swab. Now, if you're going to use the crayons or the gel sticks or whatever you want to call them, you can definitely do so. Use them very lightly so that you don't have an overabundance of leftover crayon on your area. So we're going to start on this one here with some yellow. Turn this so I can get the crayons out. So we're going to put down some yellow. And we're going to put down a little bit of orange, yellow, and then we're going to put some red orange down. Now with crayons, just like the ink, you can easily layer your colors. So if you want a tricolor flower, you can definitely achieve that with using your stencils. So this one here, I want to start with yellow. So I'm going to take some yellow with my Q-tip and I'm just going to fill that in. Now you can use a brush as well. The Q-tip does give you the ability to be a little bit more precise unless you use a really small brush. So that's with the Q-tip. Now we're going to take a small brush and do the rest of it just to show you the difference. The small brush will pick up a lot of the crayon at once, and you can actually go over areas that you've put down a lot of crayon and pick some of that up as well. But as you can see, the area that I did with the Q-tip is a lot darker because it definitely concentrates that crayon a little bit more. So we're just going to add a little bit more crayon into those areas. Now I'm not too worried about how much yellow there is here because we're going to be adding to it. Okay, so there is the yellow part. Now we're going to take some of this orange, dark yellow, and we're just going to go around the center with this darker yellow into the center area. And then we're going to take the red orange, and we're going to pick up as much of that as we can. And just try to get a little bit of it. Now the brush does give you the ability to brush that color up and blend that color together a little bit easier than the Q-tip will. Okay, so now we've got another one down here. So just rub off your color off your pen, your crayon. Rub the crayon off. You can either do this, of course, on a piece of paper towel, on a piece of paper, whatever you got handy. Jeans work really good from what I hear. So I'm just going to pick up all this yellow again, and we're going to go into this one down here. I take off enough of that orange, but that's okay. And just try to make sure that you get some stuff into all of the petals. Try not to go too far into the leaves and that sort of thing. Like there's a leaf right here, so we don't want to go in there. And then we're going to take some of the deeper orange, yellow, and we're going to do the center. And then we're going to take the really orange and do the very center area. Just bring that out a little bit. All right, so there's our orange flowers. I guess there's another one down there, but I'm going to use the Q-tip for the light yellow. You just have to be really careful with it because it's got a couple of edges there that is going to catch the Q-tip fluff. So I'm just going to put some more yellow down here. Now you can also do this directly on your page. However, it does gum it up a little bit. So it's definitely a lot easier to spread around and to get a good understanding of where your color is going and a more precision if you use a brush or a Q-tip. Alright. Now once this dries, with the crayon, definitely I would suggest that you spray it with a sealer before you put it through your printer. If you don't, make sure that you seal it right after printing it so that it does not lift up when you're coloring on it. Most of the time it won't, but just for safety precautions, to make sure it won't, make sure that you do that. So just going into it a little bit with this orange. And there's our flowers. I'm going to grab a different brush because now we're going to work with some greens and a different Q-tip. So we're going to use some dark green and we're going to use some light green. Alright, so we're going to take the dark green with the Q-tip. Now you can also use a rubber tip. Let's see if I have one here. Such as, oh, come on. My arm's not long enough. Such as this to get into hard to reach areas. Like for example in here. Just be careful with it because you can lift up your stencil and end up with no line there because the stencil has been lifted up. But you can definitely use one of the silicone tipped tools as well. I like the Q-tip because it's a little bit easier to smush with. It's not as flexible. However, it does grab the edges of the stencil. That you don't want it to. Now we're going to put a little bit of the light green in there. Now that we're away from the flowers a little bit, we can add the rest of the color via brush. If I can learn how to hold on to a brush. Now I'm just putting the light stuff down first. I know I put the dark stuff down up there first, but that's because I wanted to get it taken care of before I started just smushing. Now I need a little bit more light green. The only thing that I would say about doing this with the brush is that it does hold on to a bit of that crayon more than you really want it to. It doesn't put it down as much onto the paper as you'd want. And it does take a little bit more of work, but it does give you a much smoother look. And a much smoother blend if you're putting different colors together. Okay. Now we have a little butterfly there, so we're going to add a little bit of pink. And I'm going to stop knocking things over. Now, of course, as you've probably figured out, you can definitely do this with pan pastels as well, and use your pan pastel tools and that sort of thing. Now I'm just going to grab one more brush. I'm running out of little ones, so I'm going to grab a medium one here. Now this one's going to pick up a lot of the pink all at once. So I've got some light pink on there and some bright pink on there. So I'm just going to go right over the wings. And get those done up there. Now we're also going to do the bee. And we're going to take the yellow and we're just going to go right over the bee with some yellow. Now, of course, you're going to have to draw over or color over the legs and that sort of thing. Do the same thing with this with the yellow. And just go into that pink just a little bit. Just to give it some sort of contrast there. Okay. So now we're just going to peel that up. And there we have our floral background. So we've got our little bee here, we've got our flowers, and we've got our little butterfly. And you can do that over here as well. So you can move those flowers over, add another, another layer of flowers, that sort of thing. All the way across. You can do that all the way through the entire background. It's very simple. Once it's dry, put a sealer on it, print right over top of it. So yeah. Now I am going to actually do this with some inks. So I'm going to do this technique on a full sheet of paper and I am going to print on it. I'm going to next time show you how to seal that and how to color on top of it. So I hope that this has been helpful in how to maybe do a couple of backgrounds so that it makes it a little bit easier for you to take a look at a background and say, okay, I've got some stencils that are very fun, great for wallpapers, that sort of thing. Let me grab a couple of those, use the colors that are dominant in your picture, and fill it in. If you have a couple of scenes or a couple of things with some small fairies or, just one picture in the center, you can go around the entire center picture with little flowers and different things like that just to fill in that background for your picture. Now, of course, you can do the entire background with a pastel um, chalk. Do the whole background that you want to do in either blue. You can also use your inks. Do the entire background, put these on top of it, seal it all in, and then print on top of that. Just make sure that you use a workable fixative, not a sealer that is going to just wipe that ink right off. You will have to give the ink some time to dry so that when you do go to color on it, you're not wiping the ink off. So I hope this has been helpful. The stencil that I am going to use for the picture that I'm going to work on next Tuesday, because I am going to give it time to dry, I am going to use ink. Let's see what I do with it. And I am going to be doing a picture in the center of it. And I put it somewhere and now I don't know where I put it. Isn't that typical? Um, where it is? Where did I put it? I swore I put it on top of the pastels. Now with pan pastels, well, let me show you with pan pastels before we go. Oh, there it is, I think. Yes. So I will be using this stencil for the background on a picture. So I'm going to move this. So I will be using this stencil on the background for a picture and then printing, but I'm not going to use the whole background. I'm going to actually leave the space for the picture to be printed because I'm going to be using some really dark colors for this. So I will show you after I have got that done on how I did it. It'll be the exact same way that I did this, just with some darker colors. So I'm going to move these over here. Boy, I have made a mess of my desk. And we're going to actually take another sheet of paper. Not this one because it's my sheet that I was using to rub off everything. So let's clean these brushes off first. I'm not going to use these brushes for the pastels, but still need to get that off of there before I forget it's on there and go to use them. End up with green where I want pink and yellow where I want green, which isn't too bad. At least it's not yellow where I want red. End up with orange. And just going to get the pink out of there. And this is basically how you get that brush clean, is you just rub that excess out of there. You don't have to wash your brushes every time. I do wash my brushes most of the time if I've used a lot of ink or a lot of crayon. Like this one here, I will wash because it's quite deep in there. But if it's just surface area, like this one here is just surface, I'll just rub it off until it's no longer giving me any sort of color. And then I'll put it away. But that's how I deal with the brushes. The stencils can be washed with soap and water, and that's how I typically wash them, is I put them between my hands, put soap on them, and just gently rub them until the soap takes all of the stuff off of them. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but that's how I do it. All right. Now we're going to do one more with the pan pastels, and then we have a picture to color out of our hug book. So I'm going to grab another paper here. Once again, this is a paper that has printing on it because it is a scrap. So we're going to do the same sort of thing. We're just going to take Um, oh, let's not throw them all on the floor. We're just going to take a picture, a stencil, and I'm going to do this really quick because I'm running out of time. So I'm just going to tape this down. Oh, I don't want to use this one. This one is the boogered one. So let's do this one. No. No, no, no. Oh, this one could be cool. Okay, so we're going to do the star. The great thing about these ones here is they have a number on them, and you can tell which side is up, which is great. Some of them do not, and can be kind of difficult to see where your up and down is. So I'm actually going to tape this one down in all four corners because of the thinness of the lines. I don't want it to lift up at all. And if I don't tape down all four corners, it will lift. So we're going to tape it right down. I can even put a little piece in the middle just to make sure. Might have wanted to put, no, it's not, it's fine. All right. So we'll tape it down. It's not straight, but that's fine. As long as it's not going to lift, that's all you need. All right, so I'm going to grab some. Now I have my dauber tool here, and I have a bunch of different ones. So we're going to work with the yellow and the red, I think, just because they're a nice bright color and easy to be seen. So let's start with the yellow. Move this down here. And you just stick it on your dauber tool and fill in your pastel. Get it nice and full. Maybe not that full. And just do the same thing. Fill it in with the pastel. Now with the fact that this is pastel, you can move it around. You know, if you have too much in one area, you can go back over it and move it around. Now, like I said, this is going to be a very quick one because, as everybody knows, pastel is the quickest way to go. Alright, so we have the red or the yellow down. Now we're going to put the red down. And we've got our red doohickey here. Let's spread it out nice and wide. And then we've got some red pastel. I'm just going to spread that around like that. And I think I want a little bit more there, a little bit more there. And you just move it around where you want it to be the most. And that sort of thing. Alright, so we've got the red and we've got the yellow down. Now we're going to gently lift this. There we go. Now the one thing that you will notice, of course, with pastel is it's dry. So you will have to put a fixative on it. You will have dust. So just without touching the page a whole lot, dust that off. You know, if there's areas that aren't in the picture area that have the dust on it that you don't want the dust on it, dust them off. The one thing that I will say with using the tape is if the dust gets under the tape, it will get sticky there. So, and it won't get stuck to the paper. But as you can see, it gives a really cool effect. So you can do that throughout your entire page and get a really cool background. So that is stencils and all the wonderful fun things about stencils. So we've covered the pan pastel. We have covered the, I'll just put that over there for now, the ink, and we have also covered the crayon. Personally, one of my favorites is the crayon. And once it dries, it is on there. Like I said, I would always suggest that you coat it with a fixative before you print on it, because it is a bit of a cream, so there's a bit of moisture there. And even once it's dry, you may find that your ink from your printer won't stick to it. So spray it down with a fixative, let it dry completely, and then put it through your printer. Alright, so I've got my hug for today here. Let's clean up some of this mess here a little bit. And then we will do our hug, and I will thank you all very much for joining me, because I have taken up a lot of your time already. Just playing. That's what I do. I just play. If it works out, I'll let you know about it. Alright, so I'm just going to put away those out of the way, and I've got my Sharpie Farben colored pencils there that we're going to use just because they're handy and I can. Let's see what. Actually, no, I'm not going to use the Sharpie Farben, because yeah, I'll use the Sharpie Farben. I'll figure it out. It's okay. Alright, so we're going to put this in between, and we've got our Cousin It page. I'm going to switch you over to the close-up camera and grab my coffee, because I've been talking for an hour and haven't taken a sip. And I don't know why this is moved. There we go. Alright, so we've got this one here, and this one here. So we've got chocolate, we've got sun-kissed, and a little bit of cream, and I know there's one more in here I need. There we go. Come here, you. And we've got maple, and yes, my Sharpie Farben, my old Sharpie Farben, are in a bucket. These are just my old ones. I do have the new ones in a bin bag, and I think we'll need some black too, and some of this, and some of that, and some of this. So many different colors that I could possibly use in this. So alright, so we're going to start with I think we're going to start with maple. Sharpen this up. Oh, of course, let's use the weight of those to hold that down. Ha ha ha. Might get Alexa to turn off the living room lights because that's a bit bright. Alright, so we've got the maple from the Sharpie Farben. And I'm just going to color the entire areas. Little monster hugs. I like monster hugs. It's a group hug. It's a group monster hug. So this one shouldn't take too long unless I get flick happy. Which I probably will. Putting texture and everything else into their wonderful hair. And I hope that everybody has had a great week. I thank you all very much for your votes. I am working on the swatch chart, the swatch book. I will let you know that I have printed it for the majority. Unfortunately, halfway through, I ran out of colored ink, so the logo at the top of the page, which is normally a color logo with pencils, halfway through is no longer color. It's black and white. So if you want to, and it is in the higher numbers, so there's not as many pictures to test your pencils on in the higher pictures. So if you are so inclined to try it on a grayscale type of picture, please color in that logo. Make it pretty. It's a bunch of colored pencils. You should have no problem getting all those colors in there. So yeah. Unfortunately, I ran out of ink, and yeah, I haven't ordered any, and it won't. When I do order it, like I could go down to the Staples, I guess, and pick some up, but I don't like leaving the house. So, and when I do go to Staples, it will be to finish the book and say, okay, it's done. Not that I'm, lazy or anything, but yeah, I'm lazy. All right, so now I'm going in with chocolate, and we're going to get some of those darker areas in. And I'm going to go in with a little bit of ruby brown. And some of the really, really dark areas. And I'm going to turn that light off. It's awfully bright. Alright. There, that's better. The living room light works good for when you're trying to see really light things, like the stencils and that sort of thing. But not so good when you're doing close-up of darker things. It just doesn't show the white very well. Now, just a quick reminder about these Hugs books. These are not meant to be coloring books. So if you are coloring on your Hug book and you color too hard in an area, you may find that the color lifts up, especially if you're going over the black areas with a lighter color. This is because it is not, they don't use the type of ink that you would use in a coloring book. Well, they may use the type of ink, but the paper is really, really, really thin, and it just picks it up. It also depends, I think, on how old your book is and whether or not it was just printed. You know, because Amazon does do that. You order a book and they print it. I don't know if they do that with this particular book, but I do know they do that with coloring books. Alright, so I've got some red brown in there. Now I'm going to go over it with the chocolate. Tone down that red just a touch. Trying really hard not to put too much pressure on the pencil. Otherwise you can end up damaging the paper. And just flicks. Flick, flick, flick. Lots of flicks. Following the lines that the artist has already put in. The great thing about this book is because it isn't meant to be a coloring book, the artist has already put all of those wonderful, wonderful details in, so you just got to follow them. They're not heavy details, but they are a good amount of the detail in there. Little hairs and shadows on the fingers and stuff like that are already there. Alright, I'm just going to color their eyes. And then down their legs here. Hopefully I'm still in screen. And I'm just using dark chocolate right now. I've used maple, red brown, and chocolate so far. Just getting all those feet. So many feet. Making sure that they're all the separations are there so that it doesn't look like they're all just one cluster. Otherwise it could get a little confusing on where one starts and where the other stops. We're just doing the jetting hair. Alright, now we're going to take our sun-kissed and we're just going to gently go over it. Darken up some of those lighter areas so they're not so white. And of course still working in those flicks because I do want some of that light color to show through. And I want to take the chocolate and fill in this area and this area and this area. Make sure all of those shadows are in there from their hands. All right. Before we go over it with too much of the lighter color. This is just the blending color. Just going to use it to blend everything all together. Try not to press too hard because it is a very thin paper. Make sure that you have something behind your paper, page that you're coloring on, so that the ink from that page, the back of this page, doesn't go on to the next page. All right. And we have a group hug. Got some group monster hugs going on here. So from the comments I received after asking for opinions, I do believe people want to see the hug a day as I continue through it, even after the hug a day for September is over. So I will do that. And I'll continue with my hug a day until they're all hugged out. And I will try to make sure I do a hug a day because it's fun and it's relaxing and it gives me the ability to color something small and sweet. So I'm just taking some black and just coloring in the shadow here. And we're just going to take a little bit of the red brown just to put some little bit of color in there. Because we can. Alrighty, I'm going to switch it back over to the main camera here so you can see our cute little huggers. So there is our monster hugs. I don't know why, I just saw them as blonde. Alright guys, thank you all very much for joining me. I hope you have had a good time and enjoyed the demonstrations of how to make a stencil work for you. I will be doing the background. I will be sealing it and printing on it, and I will go through how I do that, and then we will color on top of it and see how well colored pencil does on top of the printed stuff. So this is our one from today. Let me grab my pen. I've got to make sure I mark it. And I didn't mark yesterday's either. So that is, oh, I didn't mark day number 4 either. Ay, ay, ay. I am not doing well with this stuff, so This one here is day 4, and that was on Sunday. What day was that? So that was the 22nd. Make sure that I have one for the 21st. Yes. Keep on forgetting to put the dates on them. And this one here is August 23rd, 2021. And this one is August 4th or 24th. I was going to say it's not the 4th. 2021. All right. I think it's still 2021. So we have our wonderful group hug there. They all remind me of Cousin It. I think that's why I did their hair that way. Then we have our flamingo hug with our pink flamingos. And then we have our panda hug. I have to be careful here because my book's coming apart. We have a panda hug. And then we have our daddy and son hug. And then we have our owl and kitty hug. And first of all, we have our bear hug. So we have done a hug a day since the 19th of August. All right, so just to recap, we were able to do some backgrounds just using a stencil and different colors. This is done with pan pastels, reds and yellows. And it's just a design. You can spread it throughout the entire background. This one here is done with ink, and now that it's dry, I could probably color right on top of that, or I could even, color it in. That sort of thing. But as you can see, I'm going to take a lighter color, or medium color here, and I'm just going to color right on top of that. And it accepts the pencil quite nicely right on top of the ink. So if I'm going over something that's dark like this with, say, a lighter color, let's see, let's say a yellow. This is why I suggest that you do a separation, because as you can see, when you go over that darker color with a lighter color, you're not going to get as light of a color. The color will still show, but it won't show as light as you want it to show. But if you're going to go over the darker color with a darker color, then you can definitely cover the entire background. Like, for example, if I cover over this one, it's going to cover. It'll take me a couple of layers, but it will actually show the red, not the orange. However, this is flamingo pink, so it's going to be a bit orangey anyway. Just saying. Let's see, let's grab, where is it? This one. Yeah, we'll grab magenta. And we'll do, but as you can see, it covers quite nicely, and you can definitely get that full coverage right over top of the ink once it's dry. Make sure it's dry. So if you're going to do a very light color like this one here, as you can see, I can go right over top of that and you can't see that pink any longer. So if you're going to use a light color, you can cover the entire thing. If you're going to use a darker color, such as this burnt orange here, do it away from the picture area that you are going to print. Now this here is, it's not completely dry because I'm still feeling it lift up a bit. But as you can see, I can color right over top of it. And this is without fixative. Once you put the fixative on it, you can definitely um, be a little bit less cautious of where your color is moving to. But as you can see, as I go into this pink here, I can quite literally overtake this entire pink with this darker color if I wanted to. Alright, so that's to reiterate. You put down your stencil, you hold it down with some sort of tape. You do your covering with either a brush, a dauber, whatever you're going to use. Let it dry, because I can still feel like this area right here isn't dry. I can move that. So let it dry so that it doesn't move. Coat it with your fixative and put it through your printer. If you are going to be using, like I said, if you're going to be using really light colors such as this pink here, you can do the entire background and color right over top of it. With the inks, you don't need the fixative as much as you would with the crayons or the pastel. Alright guys, with that information, I will see you again tomorrow for Color in Work in Progress Wednesday. Of course, thank you all very much for subscribing. We have hit that 1,500 subscribers, and I have taken into consideration all of your opinions and created a swatch book. Well, I've actually created 3 swatch books that will be given away once they are finished during a subscriber party giveaway. And of course, I will either do that live or I will film it and put different ways for you to enter. I haven't quite figured that out yet. Usually I do things like that live because I like to hang out with y'all and give things away. So I will make that decision soon. Other than that, guys, thank you all very much for watching. Remember to relax, color, and stay safe. Until next time, guys, bye-bye for now. Oh, I've got things in the way. All right, guys, bye-bye for now.